Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are, wherever you're going. Welcome back to the Dierks and Denver Podcast. I'm Dierks here with my best friend and co-host Denver this morning. It is Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as we recorded our last podcast, some big news broke. We're going to get into that first topic of the day. We're also going to revisit, again, Denver's journey with college basketball. It's going to be kind of a shorter midweek pod this week, but we are excited. Before we get into it, you already know what I have to ask. Denver, how are you doing today, buddy?
Pretty swell. I'm surprised I'm awake. Usually I'm not a morning person, so this is big news to me. This is a big shock, but I'm here. Midweek podcast, like you said, we have a shorter one this week, a longer one coming this weekend. We have to find a date for it, but we'll let you know. But I'm excited. This is big. This is big.
Absolutely huge, my guy. All right. I said it already. The big news. J.J. Watt signed somewhere finally. He is officially an Arizona Cardinal. And I don't know about any of y'all listening. That came as a shock to me. I know Denver was definitely surprised. I think most people, outside of probably J.J. Watt's inner circle, had no clue this was coming.
Can I start?
Oh, absolutely.
What a fucking piss baby move.
Whoa.
All right.
Whoa.
Look, I did not like this move from the as soon as it broke. I was like, really? The Cardinals? Why? Why are you going to the Cardinals? Oh, I want to go win for a championship, he says. I think it's time for me to move on. Go somewhere that's a contender, he says. And then signs with like the third or fourth best team annually in a division because of money. $23 million for a 10-year like veteran who's on the downside of his career. I know when you look at a picture of the Arizona defense now, it's like Isaiah Simmons, Budda Baker, Chandler Jones, J.J. Watt, Pat Pete. Okay, yeah, it's big names, but like Pat Pete hasn't done anything in like 2 years. Okay, Isaiah Simmons is a second-year player. Chandler Jones is actually really good. It infuriates me that it's like I need to go somewhere that is a championship contender. You're really telling me the Cardinals are the best team in the NFC? Is it West? The NFC West? Get out of here. It's not. They said, here, we're guaranteeing you $23 million. And he said, all right, I'll take $23 million over 2 years. Then I can retire, sit at home, make more Subway commercials with my family because that's what I do now. This man has more Subway commercials than he does. He has playoff wins. You know that? Look, J.J. Watt's good. He's good. He was great. But you're not going to win a championship in Arizona, buddy. I don't know who told you, who in your little inner circle said, hey, go to Arizona. They have a shorter than average quarterback there. They have, I don't even know if Larry Fitzgerald is still playing. He's been in the league for 100 years. I don't know who told him what, but he said, what about the Packers? What about Tampa? They just won a championship. Nah, Arizona's where I'm going to go. I'm going to win a championship in Arizona. Get the fuck out of here. You go.
Who took Denver and replaced him with Skip Bayless? Where's my co-host?
Here. Get the hell out of here. I am not skipping. You know I'm right. It doesn't make a lick of sense to go to Arizona.
In all seriousness, I do think you have a considerable point in the fact that if he wants to win a championship, I think the Cardinals have like the pieces, but this is definitely the path of most resistance. There's Pretty much no doubt about that. Maybe the only other place you could have gone where your road would be even remotely this difficult is either Cleveland or Pittsburgh, one of those two AFC North teams. That that division is also traditionally difficult. The Browns are up now, and the Bengals look to be trending up, but I don't think anyone disputes that at least recently, week to week, the NFC West has been probably the best division in football. And so the Cardinals finished third this last year, and if the 49ers get back to the way they do, like they'll be competing their butts off, right? It's the Rams, in my opinion, got better. I know we talked about that in the Stafford Goff trade episode. So the Rams are going to be back. The Seahawks probably will be there as long as Russ doesn't jump off. I'd expect the 49ers to compete again. Even this year was a down year for them, and they competed. And then the Cardinals, honestly, they kind of blew it this year. The Cardinals should have been a playoff team, in my opinion. They just kind of dropped the ball those last couple of weeks. So is he going to a bad team? No. But if his sole goal is actually to win a championship, he probably didn't make the smartest move, I guess, is the way I'll put it.
Look, 2 comments out of there. 1, don't put words in my mouth. Matthew Stafford and the Rams are going to be garbage this year. And two, the Cardinals didn't make the playoffs because of the Bears last year, so thank God for the Bears. But you're right. He took the most difficult route maybe possible. Like you said, the NFC North is the AFC North is a pretty strong conference here too. I seriously don't think it's a smart move. If he was really thinking about a championship, he would have gone to maybe somewhere like Green Bay, or Tampa. I don't know. I don't know what the salary caps look like. I'm not personally involved in that. And maybe that wouldn't have worked out salary cap wise and what he was looking for money wise. But it seriously doesn't make sense to me that the Browns, I'm pretty sure the Browns had offered. I saw a report that the Browns offered him more money. And
yeah, I'll throw that up on the screen real quick. The deal J.J. Watt signed with the Cardinals was not the most he was offered. The Cleveland Browns and Indianapolis Colts each offered more money, and Tennessee's offer was very similar to the money that he got to go to Arizona.
See, Tennessee, I mean, I guess he would want to maybe go there. The Colts make sense. The Colts could be looking up possibly this year. But, like, the Browns are probably his best bet, as they are a trending up team.
I disagree. I think there was one place that was probably even better than Cleveland, but we'll get there in a sec.
See, Cleveland would have been personally mine. I know they still would have to go through Kansas City in the playoffs. But, I mean, it's more competitive. Honestly, I'm disappointed in J.J. Watt. That doesn't mean I don't have respect for him as a player and what he's done on the field. But you told the Texans, you told your fans, that you want to go somewhere where you can win a championship, and this just is not it. So.
See, I'll defend him a little bit there. Like I said, I think the Cardinals have the pieces that they can be one of the teams in the conversation, right? I almost respect him more for not straight up ring hunting, if that makes sense. Like, he didn't just, if he was truly in it for just the championship, I think we both agree that he'd have jumped and gone instantly to probably Tampa Bay. I think they had the cap room to make a move on him. They're the defending world champions. It still looks like Brady has a lot left in the tank, et cetera, et cetera. We've been there and talked about that before. So he probably would have just done that. He's going somewhere that has the potential, and he's going to try to make a run and kind of build something. And so that I can definitely respect. What I found interesting about this whole thing, unless you have something indirect
No.
response. So I'm big into the sports betting scene. The guys at PointsBet USA allowed fans to bet on where J.J. Watt would go. They gave the options of Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, Baltimore, Chicago, Dallas, New England, Buffalo, Miami, Cleveland, and Tennessee. Arizona was not one of the teams even on the board, which is why, I mean, even the dudes who are paid to, you know, kind of swindle a little bit and know what's going on, they had no clue. They had no clue. So kudos to him on keeping this in the dark. I guess that's kind of a rarity nowadays. But
Wouldn't you like if I was I guess, I mean, you'd probably lose a lot of money if you threw like every team on the board because like some of those teams are completely out of reach. Like, but let me tell you, I was not expecting Arizona. I'm still not. Like, if you look at those teams on that list, Pittsburgh, Tampa, Green Bay, Baltimore, like Buffalo is probably the team, honestly, probably better than Cleveland for him to go
that's
to.
what I was thinking. Is I think if Buffalo could have signed him, I was kind of hoping he would go to Buffalo. And with that, look at this. This is perfect. We're not on best of Twitter or tweets of the week, but just
Yeah, I saw this. That was great.
for those only listening, it's a tweet from the NFL memes account, and it says J.J. Watt to the Buffalo Bit, and then the picture is DeAndre Hopkins making his Hail Mary grab in triple coverage against the Bills this year, and the ball is J.J. Watt. It's just a fun little meme for you on a Wednesday. But yeah, overall, I think you and I differ slightly in the fact that I do think he has definitely, I think we can agree on this at least. He definitely has a better chance of winning a championship in Arizona than he ever did in Houston.
Yeah, I could agree
And
with
so
that.
for that, like he accomplished his goal of moving to a team that's at least capable of winning a title, but I think again we both agree that it's going to be very difficult. He picked a team not only probably in the stronger overall conference at the moment, but in the best division in that conference. So, I mean, obviously, only time will tell. Maybe J.J. Watt and the boys will prove us wrong, but for now, it seems I'm not gonna say it's a dumb move, but it's a puzzling move.
Dumb move,
Denver out
personally.
here with the
Personally.
Skip Bayless hot takes.
No, it's
We're
not a
gonna.
hot take. The Cardinals aren't good.
What do you
Like
mean they're
you're
not
right.
good?
They have the pieces like you say, but it's just not there yet. If it was there,
If Kyler
it would
Murray
make
doesn't
more.
get hurt, they're a 10-win football team.
Kyler Murray's gonna get hurt every year. Kyler Murray's the new Russell Wilson. He's gonna have to run out of the pocket every fucking game 100 times to throw off that ball. Like
The
look,
difference is Kyler Murray kind of wants to do that, and Russell Wilson doesn't. Like they're both capable, but that's Kyler Murray's game. Like
I just don't see it. If they come out and make the playoffs next year, I'll come back to this podcast and I'll say, hey, I was wrong. Good for J.J. Watt. He went to a playoff team at least. So I'll give him that.
I'd have a hard time thinking that they don't go to the playoffs. To be honest,
It's the Bears, man. The Bears are going to knock him out again 2 years in a row.
I
The
mean,
Bears shouldn't have made the playoffs.
unless Trubisky actually plays consistent, the Bears probably won't be back. The
We're
Saints
going to trade for Russell Wilson.
the Saints don't look like they're 100% ready to stay at the level that they are, so they are probably going to take a significant step back if Drew Brees doesn't return. That's obviously contingent upon that fact. We'll talk about this, I'm sure, when NFL season comes back around. This is kind of way too far out to accurately predict, but for now, J.J. Watt to the Cardinals. I say slightly upward move and emphasis on slightly. And Denver, already said, bad move. Would you like to end with any other hot take, or shall we move on?
Yeah, here's my last hot take. Out of a 10 rating, I give it like a 3.
I think I'd give it like
That
between a 5.5 and a 6.5, depending on the day. The second and probably only other topic we're going to talk about today is Denver's continuing journey in the world of non-professional basketball. The amateurs, as it were. Future professionals, maybe. Most of them, some of them. Denver, my guy, how has your start to the week been? I know it's only been 3 days since we last talked about your NCAA journey on podcast, but a lot's happened in the last 3 days for you.
Yeah, so let's just start off with the game that's on the screen.
Oh, we'll throw it up. I don't have it on the screen yet. One moment.
Oh, okay.
And there you go.
Awesome. So we'll start off Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma. That was a fun game to watch. I really enjoyed Cade Cunningham. He is going to be very talented. I can see why he's projected to be the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft. He didn't like score at all until like
probably 8 minutes to go in the game.
Yeah, really, like 7-8 minutes. I was trying to think, and then he dropped like 15 points.
Well, that's what I'm saying. His biggest, I think, what may need to change a little bit at the next level, but his biggest strength right now in the college game is he is just an expert at kind of feeling the game out and picking when it's time to go. And then when he turns it on, he's the best player on the court by just a long ways, right? So yeah, he only had 2 points and that 2 points came from free throws. So he hadn't made a shot from the field until I'm going to say it's around the 8-minute mark. I feel like it might have been a little earlier, but it was fairly late into the game for him to only have a couple of points. And then I turned around and he went from like 2 to 9 in like a minute. And then he finished the game, with somewhere in the 15 to 20 point range. He really turned it on, and we were talking a little bit during the game, and the one thing I didn't tell you in our back and forth was the fact that it was a close game throughout the first half and the first part of the second half, and Oklahoma did not have a substantial lead with Cade Cunningham not taking the scoring load was very concerning. So I'm not at all surprised Oklahoma lost.
One thing I really like about Cade Cunningham is his feel for the game. Like, he spent a lot of that, like, let's say 3/4 of the game really looking to teammates. Like, he knew doubles were coming. He knew he was going to get double teamed, so he is constantly moving his head looking. And that's something I noticed. That was really impressive to see, because that usually only is with like maybe the top, maybe like lottery picks in the NBA draft that can just see that. But he's tall, he's athletic. He's not LeBron's build, because LeBron is just built differently. But he has that mentality of, people are coming at me, I'm going to try my hardest to get people open and pass them the ball, because I don't need to score every play. But if my teammates can score, then the defense starts looking at them, which makes it easier for me. So Cade Cunningham was super, super impressive this week to me. I'm excited to see more of him over March Madness in the tournament, which starts, I think, next week.
Does it start next week? The Big 12 tournament. He has a couple more games this week I haven't let you know about yet, but if you want to watch him, they have a couple more nationally televised games. And the Big 12 tournament, which is down in your neck of the woods. We should go to that sometime, by the way, back when next time COVID isn't rampant. Discussion for another day. That is next Wednesday through Saturday, I believe. So you'll get a several opportunities to watch him during that, I assume. One last note on Cade that I'll say, and I think the way you and I have talked about basketball forever is you'll know that this is kind of my go-to compliment for very high-level players, especially at non-professional levels. The game just looks so slow to him.
Yeah.
He never looks like he's out of control. He never looks like he panics like he is just so even. And that's kind of what makes him so deadly is like you don't know when he's going to turn it on, and when he does, again, he's the best. He's probably the best player on the court, or at least in contention with it when he's having a bad game. And when he turns it on, he really can turn it on. We'll move on to game number 2 now if you're ready.
Yeah.
Take it away.
This was my favorite game ever.
This was probably the game of the year. Ever. You got a treat here. This probably unseated the Michigan-Ohio State game from a couple weekends ago as the best game of the year so far.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed Baylor. They're a very fun team to watch. West Virginia held their own, which was insane. This game was extremely close, and I believe if Jared Butler doesn't foul out, this game continues to stay close. I know it's a 5-point game, but like near the end, you could kind of see Baylor just like pulling ahead to me. That's what I saw anyway. Mm-hmm. So, but if Jared Butler stays in that game, it's he plays for West Virginia. I'm correct.
No, he plays for Baylor. He's the guy on the screen.
Okay, never mind. Let me rephrase that. There's a guy on West Virginia.
Gabe Osaboyan.
There we go. That guy. It was just so fun to watch. They chuck it down the court, shoot a corner 3 that didn't look like it had a prayer of going in. It go in, overtime, here we go. And the finish to the game, what the heck was that? That was insane. You throw it in out of bounds, okay? You throw it. Mullet Man doesn't catch it, okay? And then the West Virginia has a chance to like score, but I didn't really see what Baylor was doing that was so special that couldn't break that defense per se. And he double clutched a 3. Like, what was that?
Well, if I recall, right, so the sequence Denver is referring to is with about 3 seconds ish to go in the game, West Virginia had an inbound underneath their own basket. They tried a baseball pass the length of the court. It was intercepted by Baylor. Baylor calls timeout. Baylor then is inbounding from like the top of the arc, sideline out of bounds. They throw it back toward their own basket, and the dude throws it so far that it just goes out of bounds without being touched, which means West Virginia gets the ball right there at the sideline out of bounds. And was there a pass is the thing that I cannot specifically remember. From the inbound, I feel like the inbounder gave it to somebody, and then that person then passed to Deuce McBride, who had to put up a shot. That's why I think it was a poor look. I think that guy has to shoot it or make some sort of play because he gave it up to Deuce McBride with such little time on the clock that he didn't really have a great look at a game winner. It still almost, had a chance, but then obviously goes to overtime. It goes where it goes.
I should also mention that in this game, I have found my favorite college basketball player, and his name is Taz Sherman. Oh my gosh, Taz Sherman was so fun to watch. He had no care in the world. We talk about differences in game where it's Cade Cunningham. Everything looks slow. Everything looks so fast to Taz.
He keeps it under control. But yeah, it's a million miles an hour. He's everywhere. He played a whale of a game yesterday.
You know who it reminds me of? Just like him keeping going and just doing whatever he's doing. He reminds me of name drop Devin Melhoff.
We love Devin. Devin was fun to watch run around in circles all the time back in the day.
I'm not dissing Devin. Let me make that clear. I'm not, Devin, if you ever see this, I'm not dissing you. But you and Taz have the same dribble mentality, and it's so fun to watch.
It's always
And
moving. It's fast as fuck. Like it's just a million miles an
it's
hour, and that's
continuous.
what makes it tough. That's what makes it tough. He's just everywhere.
And that ability to score, that's what it reminded me of. And I didn't want to, and I'm not dissing anybody, but just the
No.
just
I
him
actually
running
think
around.
that's actually kind of that's a throwback, but that brings me back. It's a pretty decent comparison.
Yeah. So, but it was just a fun game to watch. If you haven't watched it, go try to find the highlights, because it is truly probably, like Dirk said, the best game of the year. And I didn't even see the other one, so to me, this is the best game of the year. I think Baylor looked good. I
They
think they're
needed
still
they
kind
needed
of,
this game after the way
yeah.
they played against Kansas last weekend. And this was a big
That,
bounce back game, big statement too. West Virginia's a really good
yeah.
basketball team. There's a reason they're number 6 in the country.
So that's my take on this game. It was fun to watch. I'm excited to see more of Baylor. Do I I want to see Baylor at their best, because I haven't seen them at their
Hmm.
best, and I don't know if they can, especially last night, like the next game we're going to talk about. I don't, if they're playing like that, there's no way I think they beat, I think they beat who the next team we're going to talk about is.
Yeah, one more note on this game before we move on, because you and I didn't talk about this either. Can we just talk about Jared Butler a little more in depth? Some of the takes that man had late in the game, absolutely fearless attacking the rim, were just so impressive to me. Like, West Virginia has some big dudes down there. Uh, Gabe Osaboyan is one, and oh, what is his name? He wears number 1. I feel
Oh,
like an
I
idiot
don't
right
know.
now.
I couldn't help you because I don't really know that many players that right away.
Yeah. Anyway, um, West Virginia's solid inside, and Jared Butler had 2 plays. One he got an and one on fairly late in the game, and then the shot to tie the game that effectively sent it to overtime, if I recall, was him just straight line driving it right to the right side of the rim, and the dude just, I mean, he went right at the
Yep.
guy's chest and made an excellent finish. That type of stuff, it translates. If you're a good finisher around the rim, he's gonna be fun to watch for a while, I hope. But we will move on to the final game that
I
Denver
agree.
watched in the last couple of days. We had another top 5 matchup here. Number 4 Illinois and number 2 Michigan. And this one really did not live up to the billing. I know maybe you're disappointed that it wasn't a better game, but I think we learned a little something here about at least one of the teams.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna be openly honest. I didn't like about midway through the second. I stopped watching. I said, "Oh, this game's done," and clearly it was. But wow, does Illinois look impressive? Illinois came out even and without Ayo Disabuye, or is that how you pronounce it? I don't
Io
know. I don't know.
Desunmu.
Ayo Desumu.
There you go. Io Desumu.
Ayo Desumu was not in this game, and Dirks has told me that man is like one of the best players in the nation. And they came out and they just started going, and it started like my favorite matchup to watch, and it didn't play out the way I thought it was going to play out. Was Kofi Coburn versus Dickinson. I don't know Dickinson's first name.
Hunter.
Hunter Dickinson. So like those are two big dudes. Talk about big dude. Kofi Coburn is 7'2" and 285. I found that out last night. That man is a hoss of a dude.
He
He
he's
is a
that he's that big, but he doesn't look like thick. He's like slim thick, dude.
dude. His chest, his shoulders are broad, man. He's going to the NBA, and whatever team gets him is legitimately going to have like a blessing on their hands. I know the traditional center's kind of gone, but Kofi Coburn, he plays how he wants to play, and he does not care. and it's awesome to watch. Overall, I think Michigan being the number 2 team in the nation, I don't think so. I think they're more of like a 5th team in the nation. I think Illinois should be number 2. Um, I'm still trying to understand how college rankings work,
Yeah,
but Illinois just looked overall so damn good.
they
Like,
did.
how do you stop that team? Like Gonzaga, I haven't yet to watch Gonzaga play, and if Gonzaga plays even remotely as good as I've seen Illinois play, who I think, because they're the only team I've seen, I think they're the best team in the nation right now. Baylor has some hiccups apparently, and I've yet to see Gonzaga, so we'll see. But Illinois just is dominant, and when Io comes back, it's just stacking on. So
Yeah, that was I think the craziest part is they laid this absolute beat down on a very good basketball team. Let's not discount Michigan. Every team can have a bad night. This was a lot more about Illinois making Michigan have a bad night than Michigan just inherently having a bad night. I feel like Illinois bothered them so much on the defensive end, and Michigan just never could really get anything going. And then Illinois, all of the two big ones that get a lot of the press, and the announcers last night talked about this too. You hear a lot about Io and you hear a lot about Kofi. They have some dudes on this team. They're probably as deep as anybody. The dude on the screen, Trent Frazier, is like one of the best 3-point shooters in the history of the Big Ten. Andre Curbelo, who's a true freshman. I know he's a freshman. I think he's a true freshman. Off the bench, assumed some of that scoring role that was left by Io being out. You know, the most unheralded and fun name to say, my boy Georgi Bajanishvili, off the bench. He plays some big minutes there when Kofi can't play. They are deep. They have a lot of experience everywhere. This team is going to be a tough out in March, and like you said, they look really good right now. As long as, and I don't think it should be a problem because of the talent level of Io, right? But whatever they have right now, they've learned so much from that Michigan State game that you watched last week to now playing without him, that hopefully when he comes back it doesn't mess with whatever this magical mojo they have going on right now. Hopefully it only adds to it, because the more teams that are playing at a high level in March, the more fun it is toward the end. I'm excited.
yeah, and like I agree with you on that when Io comes back. And that's like I think that's a core for a lot of teams. They get carried by one player. That's what it's appearing to be. That's what the media puts out to be. So that's what the team starts to think. But when that one player goes down or goes out, and that team realizes that they can play as well, if not better, without that player, then I think it becomes a confidence booster for the rest of the team. Like, hey, we're playing fantastic. We don't need to stop playing fantastic. And when Io comes back, let's just add him to the mix. That's my one thing, and that's what I think's gonna happen, and I hope it happens because I want to see the best March Madness as my first March Madness. I want to see things that I haven't seen, and I would really like it to come down to Illinois and maybe Gonzaga. I want to see them play first, but I really think Illinois at least goes to the Final Four.
The big thing for me again too here is, how does Michigan bounce back from this? They now only have 2 losses on the season. They're far from out because this team just, the way they play, they're going to be in basically every basketball game that they play. They are just competitive. Last night was the aberration, right? But this is now 2 losses where 2 Big Ten teams have kind of given it to them. They bounced back from the first one and have now progressed to the point where they were last night as the number 2 team in the nation. They're going to take another step back now after this game? How do they respond from this? We're probably going to get a rematch of this game in the Big Ten title game here in a week and a half or so. And if that is the case and we see these two teams again, we'll then have to use that as our true measuring stick entering the big one.
Last note, because I didn't know it and it shocked the hell out of me. I didn't know the coach of Michigan was Juwan Howard.
Mm-hmm.
That shocked the ever living hell out of me. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, this man, I wonder what happened to him from winning the last 2 rings in Miami, just sitting on the bench being a player coach, to now coaching considerably one of the best teams in the nation in college basketball. So good for him.
Mm-hmm. Now, to just be the cherry on top of this nice little episode, Denver, you know about the NBA bubble. You know about the G League bubble. I'm going to introduce you to my friend, the NCAA tournament bubble, but not the physical bubble that they're creating in Indianapolis this year, the one that exists every year, that has teams on either side of the mountain kind of thing. Who's making it, who's not right now. We'll then revisit this right before Selection Sunday. I think it's this one. Nice graphic, by the way. You like this? Every day. Yeah, this was updated this morning at 12:10 a.m. Eastern. They update this every day going forward. Sometimes multiple times a day. The top overall seed, Gonzaga, they're firmly in. But this is what we pay attention to. Right now, the first team out and the last team in. Here's the bubble. So, this is fairly self-explanatory, but let me explain how it works, right? There's, I think, 33 conferences in Division I NCAA basketball. The winner of each of those conferences is an automatic qualifier to the tournament.
Okay.
There's then however many at-large bids, right? 35, whatever. These, right, if you put a line right down the middle here, so right in between the last 4 in and the first 4 out, the 8 teams on the left side of that line are teams 28 through 35 in the at-large ranking. And then the first 4 out and next 4 out are the teams that would be 36 through 44, I guess.
Gotcha.
So right now, the line is drawn between Xavier and Boise State. We have some big names, Duke, Syracuse, Indiana, on the wrong side of this imaginary line right here. But now we see Michigan State sneaking in. Michigan State wasn't even like in the picture really like a week and a half ago. But then they've put together, they beat Illinois, we talked about, a week and a half ago. They beat Indiana last night, I know. They beat Ohio State over the weekend. So they've now catapulted themselves into the last 4 teams in. Georgia Tech and Duke played last night, and that could have probably been an attempt for Duke to... I think they were like right here before the game last night. And so they could have maybe snuck their way into the last team in. But now Duke's got some work to do. They're going to have to make a run in the ACC tournament probably to make it into the big bracket. This is just a fun thing that we can throw up on the screen and take a look back at here in 8 days or so and be like, okay, who's moved where? Because there's a lot of movement on this bubble. All of these teams have so much work to do to like solidify their spot that this is some of my favorite things to look at.
Yeah, I have no idea what this is. You just explained it to me. It's crazy to see Duke in this little thing. It's also crazy to see Syracuse also there. I laugh because VCU is up in like they're going to the bracket, and VCU always cracks me up because they had that big run a few years back where they made it to like the Final Four or something, and that was wild. Yeah, it is an interesting thing to look at to see where teams go, teams land. I think when it comes down to it, I'm just excited for this. I want to see who plays who, and it's just getting me pumped. Like I'm just so happy that I'm slightly enjoying college basketball.
Me too, for what it's worth. This is the best time of year, in my opinion. The next couple of weeks, I'm going to definitely have you watching as much basketball as you can here as championship week starts. I think Saturday is really the beginning. The first couple of conference championship games take place on Saturday, and then some of the smaller conferences start their tournaments over this weekend, I know. And then middle of next week through the weekend is all the big boys. They're playing each other. They're fighting it out for those seeding points and stuff like that. It's going to be a wild time. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Dierks and Denver podcast. Before we go, we got to do it. Our social media plugs. Denver.
So yeah, social media. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify if that's your preferred podcast listening place. If you listen to podcasts on audio sites, we're on all of the audio things I think now, or pretty much all of them. So be on the lookout for that. We will constantly post when we post a YouTube video to let you guys know on Twitter. If you have questions, interactions, please tweet us, DM us. Our DMs are open, and we'll bring conversation onto here. You know, our ultimate goal is for you guys and us to build a community and talk and have different opinions. Like clearly JJ Watt is a different opinion in this community. So, but Spotify, Twitter, YouTube, all the good jazz. Follow us on there at Dierks and Denver Podcast. That's my plug.
Perfect. He just gets better and better every time.
Thank
That's
you.
gonna do it for us today. Wherever you are, wherever you're going, we love you. We'll see you next time.